Okay. Okay, go ahead. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Want to say good evening to everybody. We're so happy that y'all came out tonight for this information session. And this is an information session in advance of the legal clinic that will be coming up on September the 5th, right, at the Burke County Judicial Center. And if I'm correct, this will be the first one? First one in the Judicial Center. So we're excited about it. Judge Parks came and informed us about it at our North Ebenezer Central Baptist Association meeting, and we were so happy to hear that this was coming to Burke County. So we thank y'all for coming out tonight. I'm going to introduce Judge Parks. Judge Parks, I got to meet her a few years ago in court when she had just come back home, right? And I got to meet her in juvenile court. As most of you know, I work in the juvenile court here in this area. And I got to meet her then. And she is now with Chief Magistrate Judge Cynthia Kelly as her deputy chief in magistrate court. And I knew that this young lady, she had so much fire and passion. I always take note of people who love kids and try to help kids. And she was one of those people. And I knew that she was destined to do great things. I'm excited about what they're doing here. So I am going to turn it over to her. I'm going to let her introduce everybody up here. I know y'all know most of them, but I'm going to let her introduce. I'm going to get out the way, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
So again, my name is Judge Mamie Parks. I want to just make a correction. I am under Judge Cynthia Kelly. She's our Chief Magistrate of the Burke County Magistrate Court, and I'm so thankful that she selected me to be appointed and be a part of her team. So I just want to tell you where this idea came from and it came up with, where I came up with it. Like Pastor Bing said, I came back to Burke County. When I was a senior, I guess technically my senior year in law school, I had pretty much my spirit broken and had decided that I didn't want to practice law. It was a bad experience, and I basically quit law school. And I had one more fellowship that I needed to complete, and it was from Washington, D.C. They sent me down to Burke County, my hometown. And Georgia Legal Services, and I worked for them, and Georgia Clients Council embraced me and made me see all of the need and all of the strength in our rural community, specifically Burke County, and how much we could help each other and how we could do law for ourselves. I just wanted to let you know there's about 1.3 million attorneys in the United States. In Georgia, there's about 33,000, and in Burke County, it's less than 1%. It's 0.004 attorneys in Burke County. So this law clinic is here because we are going to have to start advocating for ourselves. And while the Burke County Magistrate Court can't advocate for you, we think that it's a great service to be able to bring a law clinic and the expungement or records restriction to help serve you. But I just didn't want to bring the clinic and press it off on you. I wanted to let you know who's in charge of those kinds of services in our county. And to my left first, again, is my amazing Chief Magistrate at the Chief Magistrate Court. And she has over 20 years experience in this court, so she knows all parts of what's going on in Burke County Magistrate Court. And then next to her was my former right seat colleague, Judge Ashley Moore. We worked in the Magistrate Court together, but now he is the chief of the probate court of Burke County. And then our district attorney, our amazing district attorney, Jarrett Williams, is here to help show the other parts of what can happen in Richmond County. And so I'll let him speak about that. And then we thank the Sheriff's Office for allowing Ms. Kim Briscoe to come, and she will explain records restriction, and each one of them, they will introduce themselves and talk about what they do. And then finally, I'm just really excited to have Georgia Legal Services here, who's going to represent low income, provide education, and represent people of our elder community. So I'm just going to let Judge Cynthia Kelly just say a little bit of something about the Magistrate Court. And then after we finish introducing ourselves, we'll at the specific clinic table explain what's going to go on in our county. And then after that, we'll allow some questions to happen. So I just thank all of you for allowing me to take up your Wednesday Bible study and be a part of your family, and that we get to connect tonight.
Oh, okay. Ooh, I can't top that introduction. My name is Cynthia Kelly, and I am the Chief Magistrate, and I have been the Chief for coming up to 3 years. all before that, I started with the county back in 1991, and I've been there since. In the magistrate court, we have two sectors. We have the criminal side and the civil side. Everything that comes in that office is either going to be one or the other, civil or criminal. And on the civil side, it's a lot of everything that's under $15,000 it's filed in magistrate court. We do dispossessories, garnishments, interrogatories. There's a good bit we do in there. And on the criminal side, we issue a majority of all the warrants. We do all the bond hearings, first appearance hearings, and preliminary hearings. And we got new services like we got the animal court that we're starting to iterate more, and the ordinance court. So we have several courts in place, and I think it's gonna be more to come eventually. All right, that's about it with the magistrate court, and I have an open door policy. If you have any questions, you can always approach me. I'm very approachable, and my office hours are from 8 to 5. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Moore. As you heard, some of you know me, and I'm the probate judge here in Burke County. And I am proud to say that probate court is probably the least adversarial. So we don't come in a capacity to exact any judgment. We're actually there. Most of the time you're going to see me if you want to get married, if you want to get your birth certificate. At this point, birth certificates, death certificates. If you are wanting to, you have a family member who passes and you need to probate their estate. The probate court is where you're going to want to come. And first thing we tell everyone that comes to our court is we advise that you seek the counsel of an attorney. Because our court, all of the courts, we can't give you any legal advice, but what we do advise is that you make sure that you have the advice of an attorney. And as much as we know each other and we're a little small community and everybody knows everybody, that's cool, but we're going to tell you the same thing. Doesn't matter if you know me, if you're my cousin, because my mama say I'm kin to everyone, it's still your responsibility, and I can't give you legal advice. So I want to make sure that's abundantly clear with everyone. But I will also adjure that everyone who has family, who has property, who has anything in Burke County, here's my advice to you. Make sure you prepare your estate. What I mean by that is I mean that you should prepare your will. You should, if you are able and if you have that opportunity, make sure that you have some kind of designation of where you want your estate to go. Who's going to get your house? Who's going to get your car and all of the other things that you have, including your money? Because oftentimes if you don't have it, then it leaves, not only is your family dealing with the loss of the loved one, but they're also going to deal with now the responsibility of trying to dispose of this estate and make sure they take care of it properly. And we are there to make sure that you handle that. So we deal with a number of things in probate court, not just estates, but guardianships, marriage licenses. If you want to pop fireworks and you have an immediate crowd, we're going to give that license as well. And we also deal with some other parts of government, swearing in local officials that are elected to different positions and those who are appointed. And that's all I got to say. So we're going to turn it over to you.
Ashley left out. You can get a marriage license or a firearms license in the same spot. My name is Jared Williams. I have the honor of serving as district attorney for Burke and Richmond counties. I want to take a moment just to say that I know he didn't go in for a lot of credit, but you're really lucky to have Elliot Bing as your pastor. He is someone who not only has the heart for the work, but he doesn't sit on the sidelines and wait for other people to do it. He gets involved, and I just really respect that about him, and I think you're very blessed to have him. So the DA's office, I think everyone, for the most part, knows what we do. We're the chief law enforcement office for the circuit, the Augusta Judicial Circuit. And so what that means is that any critical stage after arrest, we're involved in. Every once in a while, we get involved on the investigative side, but most of what we do is in the courtroom. We practice here. We have an office here that is staffed. We practice in the Superior Court as well as the Magistrate Court. We also practice, we have exclusive jurisdiction over juvenile courts. And then we practice in Atlanta in the courts of appeal and the Supreme Court. And so we were able to get funding in 21 to do a summit like this in Richmond County, and the biggest response was, we want to bring this to Burke County. And so I'm very thankful to Judge Parks and Chief Judge Kelly for allowing this to happen and spearheading this this effort. And I'm excited to report kind of some changes that we've got coming soon that will allow this type of work to be done going forward. So very thankful to be here. Thank you.
My name is Kim Briscoe, and I am the record supervisor at the Sheriff's Office. I have 18 years experience, 15 and a half at Richmond County and 2.5 here in Burke County. I want to kind of briefly let you know what we do and what service we can provide you when you come over to the Sheriff's Office. A lot of people look at it just getting incident or accident reports. We can also run your criminal history, look at your criminal history, and if there's anything on your record that could be expunged, we can assist you with doing the application to send it off to the prosecutor's office to work on getting that restricted off your record. And being restricted off your record, if it is approved, what happens is it's not shown when you apply for a job. But if that job is through the state, it's going to show up, or if it's through federal, it's going to show up on that part, but it'll show that it was restricted on a certain date. So coming to the office, I encourage everyone, if you get a background check, we will work with you to work on and getting it expunged, and I'll answer any questions throughout the meeting and let you know what we can do for you. Thank you.
Everyone. My name is Brittany Paisley. I'm a supervising attorney at Georgia Legal Services Program. Our office is in Augusta, but what we do is we provide free legal services for low-income clients and clients 60 plus regardless of income, and we're helping with civil matters. We're not handling any criminal issues, but we help with civil legal problems. We serve the whole Georgia side of the CSRA. So we're going down to, of course, we come down to Burke County. We're going to Screven, Jenkins, Washington, Wilkes. We serve 13 and a half counties, but our principal office is in Augusta. And when I say we help with civil legal problems, what I'm referring to is a lot of what Chief Judge mentioned. We're helping people if you're being evicted, a dispossessory. We're helping people if you've been served with a garnishment of your wages or your income. If you're being sued on a debt, we may be able to represent you in those hearings and try to keep that debt off of you. We're helping if you have issues with your public benefits. So if your food stamps or your Medicaid is being terminated or reduced, we may be able to represent you in an appeal hearing. We're helping if you've applied for unemployment benefits and been denied wrongfully. We help victims of domestic violence obtain protective orders against their abusers. We help folks stay in nursing homes. So if they're being involuntarily discharged from a nursing home for non-payment, for bad behavior, there's a hearing process, and we can help try to keep folks in their homes. Essentially, that's what it is. We are helping with evictions. We help with probate matters. So like our probate judge mentioned, we're helping people prepare their wills, their powers of attorney, their advanced directives for health care. We do probate estates in certain situations. So if you're needing to clear title to the home so that you can, for say, get some rehabilitation help to your home, you need some remodeling, you need something like that, you need title to the home, we may be able to probate an estate that help clear that title. So things like that. What I generally tell my clients and the public is that if it's a non-criminal matter, just call us and let us screen you for eligibility, because we help with a lot of things. I may have missed a thing or two while I'm speaking to you all tonight, but if it's a civil problem, it's a non-criminal problem, you can reach out to us to let us screen and see if you're eligible for our services, which are, again, free. We travel. We do a lot of our work virtually, electronically, through the mail, through fax. But if we need to come down here, and let's say we've got a bed-bound senior who needs to get their will taken care of, we will bring the crew, and we will get the will taken care of, or your estate planning documents, if that's what's necessary for the representation. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you all may have about our services, and I do have some business cards here with our information for later. Thank you.
Do we have any questions right now? Okay. Well, I will start off the questions with one of the questions that we most get in the magistrate court, and Judge Moore and Judge Kelly are welcome to help me answer this question. So one of the questions we often get is, at the very end of during the month, a person will receive a letter that says there's a default judgment against them. And the question we get is, why did I get a default judgment, right? And so one of the things that I want you to take home tonight is, if you get a summons in the mail that says you need to answer in the court, answer. Even if you don't know what the answer is, come to court, make your answer, because that's your opportunity to either fight it out in court. If you don't answer, it's going to be an automatic, usually, an automatic default in the other party's favor. So if you're thinking to yourself, and this is a scenario that we usually get, if you're thinking to yourself that, oh, that debt's too old, they can't sue me for that. Well, come to the court and let us know that, right? Because if you fail to come to court, then even if the debt's too old, it's still going to be a default in their favor. So do you have anything you want to say about that? Because Judge Kelly has a lot of experience with some of our default judgments.
If you receive a summons to file an answer, there are options with that. We have what we call mediation. So you do have options where you go with the two parties together, and you can resolve this without even going before a judge. So do know that every civil suit that is filed, that is already paid for. You don't have to, there's no fee involved with having that mediation before court. So you can settle out of court. So remember that, just make sure you come and file an answer, because every civil case, you get to mediate it.
And so, Judge Moore, what would you say your biggest hurdle is, or the message you definitely want to give out to the community? That one.
So I think there are those of us whose family members may have wills, and we may be in possession of the will, and it's good to be in possession of the will, and the will may have named whomever is the holder of that will, and what I mean, the physical will, they have it in their possession. You may be named as the executor of the estate, but you do not have that authority until you receive a seal from the probate court that gives you the authority to do what you need to do regarding that estate. In other words, the state gives the probate court the permission to give you license or the authority to do whatever you need to do regarding that estate. So just because you have it doesn't mean that you are able to do whatever you want to. And we have that misconception. I think we're in church. The Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so oftentimes, because of traditionalism, we will assume things that are not necessarily free. Here's the biggest thing that is the misconception, I think. I'm glad you asked me that question. This is the biggest one. Anybody in here, your family has a large estate, or you got some property, they're family, or I think you guys call it heir property, right? Everybody ever heard of that? Heir property. How many of you all are connected to some heir property? It's a good bit of us. Here is what Georgia says. There's no such thing as heir property. Oh my gosh. Yep. Yes, it's true. There is no such thing as heir property. What you need to do is that estate needs to be probated, because the longer, I'm going to just use him as an example, the longer Mr. Chick Jones leaves his property out there, and I'm just going to say all of his posterity continues, God forbid he should pass, but he passes, and I'm just using him as an example. He's got 100 children, and all of his children are out there, and as a result, Chick did not leave a will. Now, all of his family, every last one of his children has to be contacted. And it doesn't matter because we think, well, I'm the last one. I'm the only one still living. That's true. But if they had children, or if their children had children, or if their grandchildren had children, or if it just continues to become more convoluted and chaotic, which is what I see, and then everybody wants to fight, because y'all know we love to fight. Oh, I feel like I'm preaching. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. But what happens, it only convolutes and frustrates the entire process. That's why I'm stressing. I'm telling not just those of us who are my seniors, but I'm even telling my peers, because you never know what life is going to do. And so if you're working, if you have a little bit of property, if you got a house, if you got children, please prepare your estate. Create a will. It doesn't take that much. And if you can't afford an attorney, Georgia Legal Services will help you to the best of their ability. And so I'm just advising that everyone do that, because you all know, I can just talk about me. I can't talk about y'all. I can talk about me. So my grandmother passed, and my grandmother, before she passed, I was not in probate, the probate court. I was in magistrate court. No, I wasn't even in magistrate court. My grandma, she called me and she said, I'm Junior. She said, Junior, I want a will. And I said, Granny, you ain't gonna die. You are still young. You still have life. She was adamant about it. And she just aggravated me. Not aggravated, because if my grandma was here, she would me for saying that. But she said she wanted her will, and she would not let me rest. And so I said, well, Granny, just call this guy. And so I called this guy, and she got in touch with him and created her will. And truthfully, like 3 years later, my grandmother passed. And so, because I'm talking about me, and I don't care who don't like it, I can talk about me. So some of my family, because my grandmother had left, they thought if we don't sign it, it doesn't mean anything. But you still have to sign, or you're still going to be noticed. In other words, we're going to put something in the newspaper, and if you don't read the newspaper, because none of us read the newspaper, except when it's nosy business out there. But most of us don't read the newspaper, and so it runs a certain number of weeks. And if you don't come to the probate court and give a response or give what is called an objection before those weeks run out, then after those weeks have run, you can't come to me and tell me, well, I didn't know. Well, you should have read the newspaper. And that's not to be snotty or rude or disrespectful, but that's just how the law works. And so it's our responsibility to prepare our wills. Talk to this lady. I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't want to say this lady. Your name's, again, sweetheart. Talk to Miss Paisley and prepare your estate, because it's going to save your family. I'm telling you, I've seen people who have set siblings at odds because there was a will. But, you know, sometimes wills get missing. I don't know what happened to Mama Will. She had one. They say she had one, but we can't find it. And so here's the other thing. If you have the will and you prepare it, you can bring it to our office, and we will file it in our office for a small nominal fee. And if, God forbid, you do pass, then what happens is the named executor or the attorney who's going to probate the estate are the only ones who can come and sign it out. And they can't sign it out to change it. They can only sign it out to probate that estate. And so it's a good place, and that way we have a fireproof room. That means it's not going to be destroyed. God forbid anything should happen to our wonderful courthouse. But if it is, that room's going to preserve your will, and we will be able to pull it out if, in any event, someone passes. I saw Miss Mary had her hand up. Miss Mary was one of my first employers.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's the first thing I tell everyone. We advise that you seek the counsel of an attorney. What I have to tell you is you've got to seek an attorney, because every situation and every case is going to be unique. So it's in the family's best interest to get together, however they do it, But somebody has to talk to an attorney so that they can help you navigate the legalese, because, and that's just legal terminology. Sometimes there are words, there are petitions that you have to file. People get upset because we say, hey, listen, here's where you go to get this petition, and we'll send them to the website. And people are upset because we're not allowed to give you the forms. Well, I'm not allowed. Magistrate has certain forms they give you, but we're not allowed to give you those petitions that you're going to need. We have to only advise you where you can go and print it off. And when you come into the office, I just want to tell y'all, I know my clerks may seem to be, unfortunately, curt, or they're not giving you the answers that you want. But the law, the Georgia law, says that we cannot give you any legal advice. I can't tell you how to fill it out. I can't tell you anything. You have to know, because your situation, again, is going to be uniquely different from every individual's. And so, again, Ms. Mary, to answer your question, I would advise that you seek an attorney and then let him know what your situation, or her, I'm sorry, let them know what your situation is, and they can help you navigate your journey and make the best decision that best suits you.
I just want to say, before you ask your question, we passed out a handout that just says what the clerks are allowed to do. So that'll kind of give you a guide when you go to each one of the courts to tell you what they are able or possible can do, and then also what they can't do. And so if you just look at that, that'll just kind of give you a guideline. And ma'am?
Well, here in Burke County, we use the True Citizen. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because on average, I think, generally speaking, with the probate court, those notices are going to run on average maybe about 4 weeks. And so I've had individuals who've come and they found out that their family member's estate has been probated, and it may have even been transferred or conveyed to someone else. And so as a result, they're saying, well, I wasn't alerted, I wasn't aware. And so here's what we do, Vino. If I don't know where you live, Vino, I know you would know. But if I don't know you, Vino, or I don't know where you live, what I'll do is I put an ad in the newspaper, the notice in the newspaper, and I don't have to have your address. We're going to say, to whom it may concern, blase, blase. This is to say, and it pertains to whatever that estate is. And so as a result, once it runs those 4 weeks, even though Vino may have not ever read it, we have record of it in our local newspaper. And for Burke County citizens, it's the True Citizen. So everything that happens at our probate court is going to flow through the True Citizen. And so once, it's imperative, it's necessary that we just make ourselves aware. Sorry. Any other questions regarding probate?
Yes, this is the Cheryl. Cheryl is we graduated together. She moved on. So Cheryl, so what did the Augusta Chronicle, is that a free service, or is it you have to pay? You just sign up as a subscriber. Okay.
Attorney Paisley, can you tell us for the clinic on the 5th, what does someone need to bring if they were thinking about writing a will?
Of course, Judge. So for the clinic on the 5th, you need to bring yourself. We don't require pay stubs to check your income or anything like that. We're going to take you at your word as to what your income is, so you don't have to worry about bringing in proof of income. You just bring yourself. But if you have a legal issue, like maybe you've been served with some papers, maybe you want us to take a look at a will that you're trying to probate, or you're being sued on a debt and you have some other documents, bring the documentation with you. It can help speed up the process of us assessing your legal issue. Just bring that. So if you have documentation about your legal issue, bring that and bring yourself.
Thank you. And then to Ms. Briscoe and D.A. Williams. So we're going to have the restricted and expungement, and I know yours is a little bit different, DA Williams. So can you talk about what the difference is, you with Ms. Briscoe, the difference between felony and misdemeanor restrictions or expungements?
So my office deals with exclusively felonies within the Superior Court. And so what that means is this is all governed by laws passed in Atlanta of what we are allowed to restrict and what we're not. When I said laws passed in Atlanta, she gave a look like, yeah, I feel the same way about the legislature right now. So with misdemeanors, there are a lot of different things that can be restricted. Certain offenses can't, like DUIs, but most misdemeanor offenses can be restricted. And I'm using that word restricted because, as she was stating before, there's no such thing really as expungement. Restriction is just restricting who can access it, who can see it. There's, you said this already, but there's no way to restrict my access as a law enforcement official from seeing what happened in your past. But for most employers, it will be restricted. So with misdemeanor cases, you have a wide swath of things that you can restrict. In the felony world, virtually no convictions can be restricted. What can be restricted is an arrest where the case was not sent to the prosecutor's office, or where the case resulted in a misdemeanor or a dismissal. So when I started in 2021, we created a pretrial diversion program. And what that does is it creates opportunities for young first-time offenders or old first-time offenders who want to keep their records clean. If they go through our accountability program, then at the end of a certain number of months, it ranges from 1 to 12 months, they can have their case dismissed. It keeps their record clean. Now, that arrest would still be on their record, and so they would still need to have their record restricted as a result. And so there are times when a felony either does not result in a conviction or does not result in being referred to the prosecutor's office. Another way that this could happen is, like, if you went through a drug court program, or we have veterans court, we have behavioral health court, any type of accountability court program where you might get sentenced but otherwise not be convicted. Also, first offender sentences. Who's heard of first offender? So that is a law that allows people to be sentenced for a felony but not have their conviction entered on their record. And if they complete their first offender probation, then the case is discharged. Now, ordinarily, it should naturally come off of your record, but oftentimes it doesn't, because all these systems and processes are based on human beings, and we all make mistakes, right? And so it could be that someone didn't file the right paperwork in the right place for whatever reason amongst the 8 different agencies that this touches, but while it may not be your fault, it's going to be your problem. And so it's good if you're worried about your history, if you know you have something in your past and you don't recall whether it got restricted or not, it's not a bad thing to just go ahead and inquire and find out, especially when we have opportunities for you to do that at free or low cost.
And that's what the young lady from the sheriff's office can do. She can check if people want to go check that.
Yes, sir. What they will have to do is come into the office. You will complete a criminal background check. One thing I forgot to mention was, if you got a charge in another county, there's nothing I can do to submit the application for restriction because it was a different agency that you got that charge in. So anything dealing in Waynesboro, I can submit that paperwork to either the DA's office or to the solicitor's office. And I always tell people, even if it happened 1985, let's submit it. Even if you were convicted, let's submit it, because you will never know an answer if you don't submit it. So once you do that application, the background check, we submit it, the prosecutor's office send me the paperwork back and say yes, approved or not approved. And if it's approved by the solicitor's office, they go ahead and do it, restrict that record in office. But with the DA's office, we have to send it off to Georgia Crime Information Center in Atlanta, which is a $25 fee.
So basically, the bottom line, your recommendation is it doesn't hurt to try.
Never, correct. Yes, sir.
And so there should be someone like, say for example, you should have a counterpart in Richmond County, Jenkins County, somebody who does what you do in those counties if the person was, it happened in that
Happened in
county.
a different county, correct,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, and by law, the sheriff's offices have those.
Okay.
And so, but just kind of a piece, because I know that I have both Burke and Richmond, but it is still tied to the county. So if you have a Burke County case that needs to be restricted, you need to let us know where it's originating from. And if you're applying, then we'll see that in your history anyway. My office will be handling it either way for the felonies, but as most of the cases that get restricted are misdemeanors, it's very specific to your county. And so we're working alongside the solicitor in Burke County as well as the solicitor in Richmond County, because even if you live here, you might play in Richmond County and end up having an issue. And so we're all working together. Everyone understands that this is a need for the community, and we're all in partnership together to try and help clear up records. The more people who are working and have the jobs that they're applying for, the better off we all are. Yes, sir.
What about if it's a federal case?
So federal cases cannot be restricted. You would have to go through I hope I'm saying this right, there's a pardons process. But we don't have any authority over federal cases.
So you listed a number of documents that you can help people prepare. My question is, one of those documents, year support, do you all assist with that as well?
Yes, we do. We have to put restrictions on even the types of cases that we take. We just don't have enough attorneys for the 13 and a half counties. We've got six attorneys for the whole region. And so we do help with probate matters such as year support petitions, petitions to probate a will, petitions for letters of administration. That's what has to be filed if there's no will, to appoint a representative. We help with those. Typically, you've got to be experiencing some kind of problem, though. A surviving spouse needs to refinance the home and the mortgage company's giving the spouse a hard time. Something like that, just because we would be doing nothing but probate matters if we probated everybody's estates for free. And so we usually, if you're having a problem and somebody's telling, oh, you need administration, you need to go ahead and probate the will, you need a year support, come see us.
So she said year support. I just want everybody to know year support is something that not as many people take advantage of. Year support is essentially your spouse passes, and as a result of your spouse passing, the first priority to that estate is going to be the spouse and if there are any minor children. Very few people take advantage of it because very few people know about it. And so as a result, what it does is it designates a certain lifestyle or continues a certain lifestyle for a certain number or designated time. So essentially, and that's going to include in the estate, it essentially gives precedence or it makes primary focus on the children. So if I leave and I have some things, or there are some people who want to be paid, before those people are paid, my wife is going to be taken care of and my minor children are going to be taken care of. But of course, Ms. Paisley is going to assist you in making sure she gives you all of the pertinent details for those extenuating circumstances. But definitely, Year support, if you have a spouse that passes, is something that I advise all spouses to look into because it kind of gives precedent. Well, it doesn't kind of, but it gives precedence to that spouse. For example, one of the things that it does, glad that the tax commissioner give reference to that, but it waives or can waive taxes for a certain number of time, for a period of time. So definitely, how many hate paying taxes? Okay, Burke County, y'all ain't gonna talk about how these taxes just went up? Okay, oh, even the tax commissioner hates them. I understand, I feel you. So but it's something that we can utilize, again, in the event that you lose a loved one. We don't joy in that, but it gives some level of relief to that family member just for a period of time. Yes, sir. We kind of work together on that, the tax commissioner and I, on those.
So a follow-up to that, in addition to it relieving some financial burden, does it not also transfer ownership?
Certainly does. Well, thank you for adding to that. So you can, with that year support, there are certain parts of that estate that can be transferred to that spouse. You know, if there's a house that's primary residence, you want to make sure that house can be transferred. And so as a result, when that happens, then we have a recording of the deed that's going to go to our clerk of court, and it's going to be recorded there for a very small nominal fee, but it assists in that capacity as well. So then all three of us get to work together. It's fun times.
Attorney Paisley, Chief Magistrate Kelly mentioned that we have mediation in the magistrate court. I just wanted to know, is that something, if someone qualifies for Georgia Legal Services, is that, will you represent them there as well?
We have dabbled in doing some mediation and things. It's not off the table. I think the issue, most people don't come to us for that, really. But I mean, as attorneys, that's what we do. We mediate, we arbitrate, we litigate. And so if you've got a civil action and you're needing mediation, I say give us a call.
More questions? So, Chief Kelly, I'm going to put you last, but I'm going to go with D.A. Williams. What would be the one thing that you would leave us with today that you would want everyone to know?
I'm going to steal probate judge's thing and say, if you're in doubt, talk to a lawyer. Don't let things ride or think that you can handle it on your own. It's worth it. A lot of lawyers are willing to give a free consultation, or at least a consultation where if you determine that you do need their services, whatever you paid for the consultation will go toward retaining them. It's worth it. There's no dollar sign on peace of mind, and it's worth it to have somebody who can guide you through this process. Criminal law is a substantial part of the law, but every other type of law is civil. And so there's just so much that goes into it, and it's just worth it to have someone's opinion who's trained to do it for you. On the criminal side, I will also leave you with just this. Misdemeanors, most of them can be restricted. Felonies, most of them cannot, unless they did not result in a conviction. Thank you.
Judge Moore?
So the probate court we deal with so many different things. This is one other thing that I forgot to mention. I think it's pertinent. In these days and times, we have a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of PTSD, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And particularly in our diaspora, there are fewer of us, it seems, that wants to acknowledge that we really need help. I think the whole purpose for coming to church is because all of us are jacked up from the floor up. Y'all should have said amen. We had church.
You switched to preacher mode.
and because we have these outward facades, and it seems as if everything's okay, but inside we all are battling something within our own minds, and very few of us want to say it, and even fewer of us want to contend with it. But one of the things that the probate court does is we have what is called an OTA. So if we have family members or loved ones or people that are close to us who are having issues that require assistance that we can't give, whether it's an evaluation or whether it's something medicinal, or whether it's just having someone who has the proper tools, who knows how to help us navigate these battles that we deal with mentally, then one of the recourses that you have is Judge Kelly. I'm just using her as an example because she's sitting close to me. She's my friend. She's acting erratic and illogical and abnormal. And so as a result, I'm concerned. And Judge Parks, who is our other friend, we recognize, we've conferred, and we say, hey, Cynthia's not acting right. She's just not herself. How can we get her help? Because Cynthia is also a grown woman, so she can make her own decisions. But if we know she needs help, then we go to the probate court and we can file what is called an OTA, an order to apprehend. That order to apprehend will actually allow for Miss Cynthia to be taken to the nearest facility so that she can be evaluated. Not so that they can say there's an issue, but so that we can help her resolve the issue that she's dealing with at this time, whether it's medicinal or whether it's through therapy. But whatever it is, as a result, I write that order, and when I write that order, the local law enforcement will take her to the nearest facility against her volition or her own choosing, and she has no choice but to go. And so that's something that there are many people who are dealing with many things, and as a result, we can call it COVID or whatever. There are a lot of things that have now exacerbated life for many folks, and so people are trying to contend and deal with things, and as a result, we need some help. And so if you have a family member, a loved one who is acting out of sorts, then by all means come to the probate court, and all we need is 2 individuals who will make a statement, who will write an affidavit, and if it's serious enough, we will do whatever is necessary to assist so that that individual can get the assistance they need.
If I can just piggyback on that, that program is meant to save lives.
Yes.
It's meant to spare people from getting felonies, but even more than that, it's meant to save lives, because our law enforcement are asked to do a lot for us, but they shouldn't be our primary